Today we're going to show you how to do a scratch repair in your vehicle in case time or resources don't allow you to get to a professional body shop. Hi, I'm Neil from Whitelaw Automotive, and the reason for doing this video today is not only so you have a better idea of how to do the repair, but so when you get home and are ready to do the repair, you have all the supplies you need. It's important to know that we have 3 types of aerosols we sell here at Whitelaw's, each suited for a different situation. Firstly, we offer air dry, which is the least expensive, as well as the quickest method. Secondly, we offer a solvent-based clear, which comes very close to an OEM color, delivering a nice balance of quality and cost. And lastly, we offer the premium waterborne solution, which will give you the best color, best finish, but requires the most time and skill, as well as being the most costly solution.
In today's video, we'll be demonstrating the water-based product, the highest quality DIY paint solution we offer.
The first thing you're going to need to start the repair is glass cleaner. Glass cleaner is a very inexpensive way to take all the contaminants out of your paint before you start the repair. The next thing you're going to need is primer. Definitely, if you get down to the metal, you have to use primer, or if you're repairing a deeper scratch and you need the primer to almost act as a filler, you need primer. The next thing you'll need is a tack cloth. The tack cloth you'll see Mike use in the video is to get out all the micro dust. If you leave it in the paint job, you'll see it in your paint job. You'll also need a sandpaper kit. This sandpaper kit has all the grits you need to make a smooth job and make the job look even better. Masking paper and masking tape you'll see Mike use in the video, but you can also use newspaper, 2 or 3 layers to keep the cost down on the repair. Shop towels. These ones are very low lint. If you don't want to purchase shop towels, just make sure you use something with low lint, because if you wipe it off with lint, you will see the lint in the paint job. Next thing you'll need is your can of PPG EnviroBase waterborne. This has the best OEM match that you can get in a spray can. If you're blending into another panel, you'll need something called blender, which lets the clear you're going to put over the waterborne blend into the next panel. And then the last thing you need is the clear. And Mike will show you how to use all of this in the upcoming video. Now let's watch Mike complete the repair in a well-ventilated area. He isn't wearing a mask today, so he can speak to you, but always wear a mask when working with paint and chemicals.
Hi, today we're going to do a small rust and stone chip repair on the fender of this 2010 Toyota Corolla. We are going to use our premium waterborne base coat, clear coat system on this one. So I'm just going to show you a step-by-step process on how we're going to do these repairs. So first of all, we've had the car washed with soap and water. There's no wax or anything on it. It hasn't been pre-waxed. We're going to clean it with an inexpensive everyday household glass cleaner. It's got enough chemical in it that'll take off any road residue or grease or what have you. We want to make sure our surface is prepped and cleaned properly before we do our top coating. So first of all, we're going to clean it. Make sure we get all our edges nice and clean as well, because we will be masking on the adjacent panels, so we want to make sure they're nice and clean as well. Get down on our edges here. Okay. Around our headlight a little better. Okay, I think I'm pretty satisfied that we got this cleaned up. You can kind of feel the surface is nice and squeaky, which is a good indication there's no residue or grime or anything on it. So I think we're in pretty good shape. So our next step, we're going to sand our repairs out first. As you can see, we've got a few stone chips. Some of them started to rust here on the corner. So we're going to do a repair on these first. We're going to prime them, and then we're going to paint and clear the panel. So I like to start with, we have multi-packs of different grits. 4 different grits in these packs are really nice because they give you 1 or 2 sheets of each. I'm going to start, since it's a small repair, I'm going to start with a 320, and then I'm going to work my way down to 400. Okay, and I always like to fold them in 3 just for simple fact that you've got a nice edge to get on your sanding your edges. Plus, once you use this one side, if it gets wore out or it gets some residue in it, you can flip it over and have a fresh, clean sheet. So we're going to start by repairing the stone chips here. Be awful careful if you like. Maybe we should. We'll just throw a little bit of masking tape on the edge of this hood so we don't sand that in the process of our repairs. Just throw a couple layers there. Just throw a little bit on the headlight as well. Just be sure we don't sand our panel. So we're going to begin the repair. As you can see, you can keep a rag in one hand while you're sanding, just to see how your progress is going. And since those stone chips have started to rust, that means it's gone through our clear coat, base coat, primer, and then we're into our bare steel. So that's why they're rusting. So we're going to have to get that sanded right down to our metal substrate for a proper repair. As you can see, as we're sanding through, we're down through our base or our clear coat, our base coat. Now we're into the primer, and actually you can see where we broke through down to the steel. So we're getting there. The 320 grit isn't an overly aggressive. If you had some bigger scratches or bigger chips, you might want to start with like a 180 or a 240 and then step your way back to a higher grit. But since these aren't too serious and it's not a huge area, the 320 is working really well. Okay, as you can see now, we've got our paint is off our stone chips in every area here. We've got it nicely blended out. You can feel a nice smooth transition. So basically what we're doing is we're sanding our ground coat, base coat, clear coat, and it's stepping it off. So you're basically got a nice transition into your adjacent panel, or existing panel, I should say. Okay, so I'm liking that. Feels good. Now I'm going to step up to a 400 grit. It'll just take some of the 320 grit scratches out. So we're going to step up to that. We're going to go a little past where we sanded to our 320 here. And make sure we sand our edges really well around our headlight into our hood, just so our primer and our paint, when we get to that stage, has something to adhere to. It likes to adhere to sanded and scuffed surfaces. Okay. So I'm satisfied with that. It really feels good. I can just see by the transition of your layers that we've got a nice stepped out and a good finish to prime. So now, since we're going to prime just this area, and then with our water-based base coat, we're going to blend it in the color, and then we're going to clear the complete panel on this one. We're going to prep this fender with an 800 grit dry paper. Okay, and that way we've got something for the clear to stick to when we carry on. So I'm going to grab a piece of 800. Again, we're going to fold it in 3s. And when we're sanding, especially our flat areas, if you sand with your, in the same line, you see how these lines show up with your fingers, that will come through on your clear. Okay, so we want to make sure when we're sanding not with the direction of your fingers, so it gives you a nice smooth and thorough finish. Make sure again to get all your edges really nice and sanded so your clear coat will stick. And again, you can mask your adjacent panels if you're not comfortable getting in there with your sandpaper. If you don't want to hit your headlight or your bumper or hood, you can just throw a piece of mask on like we did earlier. Otherwise, you can use the folded part of your sandpaper where it's got the sharp edge, so we can get down into the grooves and make sure our edges are nice and sanded. You just have to make sure that every part of the fender is sanded. As you can see, it's sanding white. You think that's odd because it's a blue car, but that's just a clear coat on top that you're sanding. It's always handy to keep a clean rag with you just to go over it to make sure you've got your areas covered. There's a spot there that will be fine, but I'm just going to give it a little extra. And again, on your trim pieces here, on your black trim pieces, if you don't want to, if you're not comfortable sanding right up to the edge, throw a little masking tape on it. It's not a big deal. You want to make sure that everything's thorough. Prepping is so important with, as you know, and even household painting, prepping is very, very important. Probably the most important thing. Take your time and make sure it's prepped properly. As you can see, I've got my sandpaper. I've almost depleted it. It's got a few little clogging up of the grit, and that will leave etches in your finish, which would possibly show up through. We'll just flip it over and use a clean side of the sheet. Make sure our wheel wells are nice and prepped as well, because they will take a bit of abuse from stones and anything off your wheel. Okay. Let's give that a quick wipe. And I think I'm pretty satisfied that we've got a good prep finish here. We should be good to the next step of cleaning and masking. Now, if you don't have a compressor at home, with an air gun, you could use a hair dryer for blowing off any dust after we've prepped. Let me take off our tape here. Make sure our edges are nice and clean as well. Okay, now we've got a nicely prepped fender ready for primer. So next up we're going to mask it off and get some masking paper on here so we don't get any overspray on the car. Okay, so now as you can see, we've got the fender all masked up. We've used actual quality body shop masking paper, 36-inch, but newspaper will be fine. I would suggest going double layer, especially up against your panels, just in case of seepage of your paint or your primer through into your adjacent panel, and it could end up a real mess after you take your masking tape. So if you double up with newspaper, you will be fine. Make sure when you're prepping and doing your masking, you're very careful on your edges, because that's going to really show up on the quality of your finished product. So now we've got this all prepped, ready to go. I'm just going to give it a quick blow and wipe one more time, just get any final dust off it before we start doing our priming section. Okay, I'm satisfied with that being clean. Now, before we prime, I'm just going to give it a quick wipe with a tack cloth. It's a cloth with a resin on it that's sort of sticky. And what it does when you run it over your surface very lightly, picks up any fine dust. So it doesn't affect the quality of your finished paint job. Okay, so we're ready with that. Now we're going to use a one-step automotive etch primer. I like this stuff because it's very good for raw plastic on your bumpers, bare metal on your panels. It's got a very good adhesion quality to it, and it's you don't need to sand it before you paint it. So we're going to give this 2 coats, which would be enough. Probably 1 will be sufficient, but I always like to give it extra coat, extra protection, extra mil of primer on the product. So we're going to give it 1 coat, we're going to let it set up, and then we're going to give it a second coat. So we'll shake it. We're going to purge our tip, step back about 12 inches, just give a light coat. It doesn't have to be a cover coat to start. That is quite sufficient. We're going to walk away and let that set up for 5 minutes. Okay, so we've given that 5 minutes at room temperature, approximately 20 degrees. You can do it if you're nervous at all or you want to do a quick test. Just touch your masking tape beside where you're primed. It's very dry to the touch. So we're going to give it a second coat. The same, we're going to give it about, 12 inch away. We're going to have a little bit of a coverage coat, and that should be sufficient. Good, now we're set. That's got coverage. You can't see through it any longer. We're going to let that set for, roughly 10 to 15 minutes in this temperature before we top coat. Okay, so now we've got our final coat of primer on. We've let it set approximately 10 to 15 minutes. I think it was about 12 or 13 minutes at this temperature, but it is dry, dry to the touch. Again, if you want to check it on your paper. Now, before we go and put our base coat on, we're going to tack the panel again, just to make sure there's no fine dust from the overspray from our aerosol of our primer, and just to ensure one more last chance of any dust in our finish. Okay. Now, as I mentioned before, we're going to use our premium EnviroBase waterborne base coat. Okay, it gives you your best color matches. It's really good hiding. It's what's used in body shops, collision repair shops, what have you. It's a good product. We go by the code again, we'll mix it in store. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it 2 to 3 medium coats. Again, we're going to keep our distance about 12 inches away. And we're going to actually, rather than let it normal dry, we're going to progress the drying with just a hair dryer. You'll see how it dehydrates more or less, takes the more or less like the water out of the solvent rather than a reducer, and you'll see how it dries, and it's a very quick system. So we're going to start with the first coat, purge our tip. We're going to give it a medium wet coat, and we're going to get our hair dryer. We'll put it on low, and as you can see, how quickly it's drying. It's dehydrating we'll call it the water out of the base coat. It's a very quick setup. And we're dry. Very quick. So we're ready for a second coat. Make sure our edges are covered well. We'll dehydrate that again. And as you can see, as a bit of heat and the air movement from your hair dryer is dehydrating that water, we'll call it, in the base coat, it's very quick. And as you notice, the color kind of comes back again to the color it should be. Most colors in your base coat will start like a purpley or a bluish hue. You'll see that in your whites and your reds are really prevalent. You'll put them on first and go, oh my goodness, it's the wrong color. Let it dehydrate. You'll see that the color come back, and this is what you'll get. Okay, again, you can see the sheen is off of it, which I would say is dehydrated. You can tell by your paper there's no residue on it. It's ready to rock. So what I'm going to do, since it's a metallic color, I'm going to give it one more coat, and I'm just going to blend it off a little bit into the adjacent colors here, or adjacent panel, just so you can get our metallic and our pearls, whichever in the color mix, just to kind of get the flow into the existing color. Okay. So we're just going to take and just blend it out like that. Make sure when you're at the end of your sweep with your aerosol, just make sure you kind of just sort of fan it off, okay? And that way you can see how it's just kind of gradually blending into the panel. We're going to do a final dehydration with this. And then before we clear coat, it's recommended at room temperature, 20 degrees, you let it sit half an hour. So I would let it sit a good half an hour before you clear. And there, as you can see, now you can see our blend into our existing panel. The transition is so uniform. And then once we get the clear on it, you won't see any of that transition poured of it through. So. Okay, so there you have it. Our base coat is on. Now we're gonna sit for half an hour and get prepped up for ready for clear coat. Okay, we're back. It was half an hour room temperature, around 20 degrees. That's a recommended time. They asked, it is recommended to leave the base coat before we clear coat. So now we're ready. We're gonna tack the panel one more time with our tack cloth, very gently over your color. Okay, we don't want to damage any of the metallics. We're gonna wipe it over, just to give our last bit of cleansiness for the dust. Okay, so now we're going to use a 1K clear, meaning there's no hardener or activator in it. It's a quick dry clear. And we're going to apply it over the complete panel. So we're going to start with a medium wet coat again, about 12 inches away. Keep your nozzle or keep your aerosol moving. You don't want any stoppages in the middle of the panel because that would cause runs. Okay, so we're going to purge the tip. And we're going to start at the top and we're going to work our way down. And notice at the ends I'm letting off on the trigger just so you get too much clear off the ends. Give it approximately 50% overlap, meaning on your fan of your spray, because it's a long, whoop, I'm just going to spot there, I missed. You've got a fan on your aerosol nozzle. If you run it the first pass, go about 50% over that for your next pass, and so on and so on. That'll give you a nice, clean, even flow of your clear. So now we're going to wait 5 to 7 minutes, and we'll give it another coat. Okay. So it's been 5 minutes, again, room temperature 20 degrees. I forgot to mention earlier, to ensure we have good coverage on your colors, because some colors, especially blue and some red metallics, they sometimes takes a few more coats to cover, and you want to make sure that you got your primer covered. A good indication, if you just look on your masking paper to where your tape is, to your, even to your newspaper, this is from the green to the brown. And you can see it's all uniform color. So that's a good indication that you've got proper coverage on your panel and that your primer should be covered. So here we're going to go. We're going to give our second coat of clear. Again, we're going to purge our tip, and then we're going to start at the top again and work our way down. I'm finding with this product, you can move it a little bit closer than 12 inches, maybe around 8 to 10 inches. It seems to be holding up really, really well. Give a nice even pattern at our 50% overlap once again. Make sure we get our edges really well. We don't have any dry spots. It looks really, really good. We're going to let it set up and we're going to give it one more coat of clear. We've given it this 5 minutes. We're going to give our last coat of clear. It actually looks really, really good after two. I'm just kind of a 3-quart guy with an aerosol, just to like to get that little extra mill build for protection and whatnot. So we're going to give it one more coat, and we'll call it a day.
Then you can kick it a little bit closer. It's holding on the vertical panel very well. Keep it cleaned up.
There, I'm happy with that. We're done. Okay, so it's been an hour. We were able to unmask our vehicle here now. That clear is pretty quick drying. Like I say, at room temperature, an hour was lots of time. I think now that we've got it unmasked, our color looks really good. Our finish is actually pretty decent. I'm really happy with the way the outcomes is. Okay, so it's been about an hour. That clear really sets up really nice. We've got it unmasked now carefully. I would let it sit for, if you can at all, I'd let it sit overnight to let it cure properly before you take it out into the elements again. I think the color look turned out really nice, and the finish actually for an aerosol finish, I think it turned out really well. I think you'd be very satisfied with this. If you follow these steps, you should have very good luck.
I hope this video was helpful. Be sure to check out the rest of our YouTube channel, and you can find our paints and supplies at 3 southwestern Ontario locations: Woodstock, Cambridge, and Paris.